Hello, I'm Nancy Perlman. On this edition of ECONEWS, we tour the Gold Creek Ecological Field Station. This nature reserve is part of the Los Angeles Community College District and is located in Little Tujunga Canyon in the city of Los Angeles in the northeast part of the San Fernando Valley. Students and professors from 9 colleges utilize this incredible biological resource to learn more about Southern California's ecological issues, geology, and archaeological history, as well as the native and exotic plants and animals. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Shannon Devaney. I'm an associate professor of biology at Los Angeles Pierce College. I'm here at the Los Angeles Community College District's Gold Creek Ecological Field Station. This is a marvelous facility where we can take undergraduate students at our 9 colleges in the Los Angeles Community College District out here to experience the natural world. They can see native plants, native animals, all of the things that live here in Southern California.
I'm Ronald Bigelow. I'm a retired professor from Los Angeles Valley College. I'm a founding member of the Gold Creek Committee, and we're up here today looking at the Gold Creek Ecological Field Station.
Hi, my name is Steve Kutcher. I'm an entomologist and instructor at West Los Angeles College. I'm here at the Gold Creek Ecological Field Station, and I'm going to explore some of the insects and some of the animals that we find here at the station. One of the nice things about this place is that when you look around, you hardly see, besides the road and fences and the buildings, you hardly see any man-made interruptions. It's pretty open. There's a riparian area, the stream with trees, and you look off into the mountains and you don't see any telephone poles or roads, and that makes this a very special place.
Hi, I'm Robert West, professor of geology at East Los Angeles College and coordinator of the Los Angeles Community College District's Gold Creek Ecological Field Station. I'm standing at the base of a large terrace, which is a former stream bottom. The current Gold Creek is south of us, much lower. Farther north is Mendenhall Peak, due north of us. We're located on a 240-acre parcel surrounded by the National Forest of the Angeles Crest. Just on our northern boundary of our property is the San Gabriel Fault, runs through east to west roughly, and has 2 major strands, and within that sliver of rock between those 2 fault strands is a body of rock formerly called the Martinez Formation. It's now referred to as the Santa Susana Formation. It's probably the gold-bearing rock from which Gold Creek gets its name.
So right now we are about 5 miles off the freeway in the northern edge of the San Fernando Valley. And we are adjacent to the Angeles National Forest, which really enriches the field station because it's not an island, right? This ecosystem is more continuous. It's connected to other native habitat surrounding the field station.
The oaks have so many different uses. Obviously, the animals need them for food. They provide shade and other resources.
Exactly. They're used by animals, both the acorns, the tree itself as shelter, as you said. The leaf litter below the tree is an important habitat for many animals as well.
The oak trees were very important for the local California Indians. They used them as a source of food. In fact, even worldwide, we think that oak trees were important to the beginning of civilization. Because wherever there are oaks, there are people that are eating the acorns, they're surviving on this very nutritious food. There are countries where they also use oaks for wood, and here in California, the Indians gathered the acorns, but the early settlers in California also came in and used the oaks to produce charcoal for fires, for baking. So a lot of our trees have been cut down, but they've grown back. Where you have an oak tree with multiple stems, that quite often is a tree that's been cut and is sprouted up from the stump. Where you have an oak tree with a single trunk, that's probably a tree that was never cut down for charcoal. So we find both types of trees here at Gold Creek, actually. We've actually done an archaeological dig here from the people at Valley College, studied one of the Indian sites, and it's now recorded as an Indian site and cannot be damaged or by anybody. It's actually protected by the law. We also have a number of chaparral plants that are interspersed in with the oak, because with the edge of the oak tree and the chaparral community is an ecotone area. An ecotone is where two communities meet one another. So we're able to study both communities and see how the plants and animals interact. These trees have survived a fire that we witnessed in the 1970s, and they've experienced floods, but they continue to survive, and so they're one of the more hardy representatives that we find at Gold Creek.
Chaparral is very fire tolerant and can regenerate after fire. However, the natural incidence of fire is fairly infrequent. A particular area of chaparral should only burn every 100 or 200 years. It can regenerate after fire, but chaparral shouldn't be burning quite that often.
Some of the large burnt branches that you can see sticking up here are old growth ceanothus that were wiped out during the last fire. After the 2009 fire, we had some of the heaviest rainfall in the Los Angeles area in 2010, and then subsequently we've had something like 5 years of drought.
Often the creek is quite dry. As you know, we're in a drought and have been for some years. It might get down to a little bit of a trickle. There might be a little bit of water even in the driest part of the year, but there's very little water in that creek sometimes.
It's taken its toll on the vegetation throughout here, especially stands like the Manzanita up canyon from us. And a lot of the vegetation has changed in and around the area that the ceanothus used to dominate. So now what's filling in the lower areas here are California sagebrush, eriogonum, and some little stands of smaller ceanothus are starting to come back.
This dead tree that we see illustrates how important dead organisms are in ecosystems. Many species of animals rely on dead trees, whether they're still standing like this one is, or after they fall down, as a source of food. We can see that this dead tree has a lot of holes created by woodpeckers, which are working in that dead tree to find food. Even after it eventually falls down, other animals will be using it. Insects and fungi will be using that dead tree as a food source. It will continue to contribute to this ecosystem for many years to come. When we take students here, we can see a lot of the plants, mainly because plants can't run away from a group of 30 students. At different times of year, we see different plants thriving and blooming. In front of me, just ahead down the trail, we have some California sagebrush. It has this magnificent smell. It's very aromatic. If you crush it just a little bit, just rub it on your fingers, you can smell the wonderful oils that are in that sagebrush.
If you were to smell it, it smells like actually sausage. So the sausage aroma we get from the sage. This is a plant that you could use. We have a number of plants up here that you could use as a source of spices, members of the sage family and also the mint family too.
Springtime is a particularly wonderful time here at Gold Creek. We see lots of wildflowers blooming. One of my favorites is a wonderful plant called woolly blue curl with wonderful bluish fuzzy flowers with long curling stamens. And it's just a marvelous plant that always makes students very excited to see.
This is the seed pod of chaparral cucumber, which has a large root. It was used a little bit medicinally, and it tends to climb over plants, but when it gets dry, it spreads its seeds, or the seeds get spread, and the plant dries up on other plants.
Some of the other beautiful flowers here are the buckwheat.
Yeah, this is the flat top buckwheat, and it is able to grow in soils where other plants couldn't survive, so it tends to be very widespread here at Gold Creek.
On the hillsides around us, you can see a lot of chaparral yucca. The yucca family includes multiple species. It's the same family that includes some iconic plants like the Joshua tree. But the chaparral yucca is a fairly short plant with these long, sharp-pointed leaves. And around this time of year, we can see some of the yuccas producing their reproductive flowering stalk. It's a huge flowering stalk, much larger than the rest of the plant. And this plant will put all of its energy into producing that stalk when conditions are right so that it can reproduce and make little baby yuccas. But usually that adult yucca plant will not survive its reproductive effort because it's put all of its energy into reproducing.
They only bloom for one season, and then they die and disappear. And Indians would use these flowers for food. They also used the leaves, the fibers in the leaf, to make cordage, basically rope. And the leaves are very sharp, so they would take the sharp end of the leaf with a fiber attached to it, and that became a needle and a thread.
Many people, when they think about grass, they're only thinking about the well-manicured lawns that they might have in their backyard. But the grass family is extremely diverse. There are many species of grasses that live all around the world. We can see that some of them are very, very different from the grass that you have in your lawn. Some species of grass can grow almost as tall as a person. We can see some non-native species here at Gold Creek, like this tree tobacco. A lot of people are very struck by tree tobacco because it has bright yellow flowers, but this was introduced to our area. Plants that we see a lot of in Southern California, people tend to think must be native because they see them so often, something like eucalyptus trees. We see a lot of them in people's backyards, in our parks. But that is, of course, native to Australia. It's not a native California species. Most of the animals that live here, when a group of students do come by, most of the animals flee, which we're pretty happy about when it's something like a mountain lion. But unfortunately, the students don't get to see as many of the animals as they would usually like to. We are usually able to see some of our lizards, things like the fence lizard, the side-blotched lizard. We do have several species of snakes here, including rattlesnakes. A lot of people get a little nervous when the word rattlesnake comes up. It's important to remember that the cliche is true that rattlesnakes are much more afraid of us than we are of them. Often you might walk right by one and you never even know it because it's too busy hiding from you and trying to get away from you. Remember, too, that very few snakes are actually venomous. Most of the snakes in our area are not venomous. Some of them do look like rattlesnakes. That's for their own defense, to encourage us not to touch them. We have many species of birds, many mammals, including, we think, mountain lion, bobcat. We see deer here with some frequency, lots of small mammals like squirrels and wood rats and pack rats and things like that. We have just a big diversity of species here.
Insects are very important to the world. They're like a thermometer. They tell you how the world is doing. And if you look at a place like this, you'll see that there are a variety of insects. Now, they may not be out, and they may come out other times of the year, but they're very important. Birds eat them, fish eat them, mammals eat them, other insects eat them. They're a food source for many of the things you find out here. The variety of insects are similar to those found in the Los Angeles basin. You'll find about 30 different orders of insects out here if you look carefully, and you'll see that they each have unique niches or little places that are unique only for those insects and no other.
It's always fun to come out into nature with you because you see things that the average person doesn't see. We obviously can see the plants, we can see the hillsides, maybe a lizard, maybe a snake, but the insects, what are we going to encounter here?
I don't. Well, I suspect a lot of the insects that are found in the coastal sage shrub and the riparian area. So I know by the plants that are here what types of insects may be here. I do know that most people, like my students in biology class, don't get a chance to see this natural history. So when I look at them with my eyes and I see them flying around or crawling around, my students look at a slide or a preserved specimen. And I think that's a kind of a tragedy, and that's why this site is underused, and there should be a way to get the students who take biology to come out here and see this diversity of animals and plants and understand how they fit in with them. I used a sweep net to demonstrate how to capture these bees and that the bees would not be aggressive when they flew out. But in the process, I collected some crab spiders and ants and small beetles and some true bugs. And actually, sweeping is a good way to see what's there when you don't know what's there. This is a darkling beetle. They feed on seeds and plant material, and they generally walk on top, but they can get underneath leaves and they'll walk across leaves. And they're called stink bugs because they give off an odor at the end of their abdomen, but they're quite a gentle little beetle. The term bug is a general term for any creepy crawly thing, usually applied to insects. But a true bug is a type of insect that has sucking mouth parts and wings that have a crossover pattern on them.
We have a large variety of insects that we've collected, but it's almost impossible to collect all the insects because there's so many of them. And every time we go out collecting, we add new species to our collection.
I was watching some of the bees do a little bit of pollination.
Right. Pollination is occurring for all the plants. We have different plants that are blooming at different times of the season. So this allows the bees to collect pollen almost continuously, although the bee will only collect pollen from one particular plant, one species of plant at a time.
I hear the birds behind us. Are they visible?
Not too much. You hear the birds a lot more than you see them. But if you're lucky, you get a little glimpse of a bird flying here and there.
All the different chaparral birds, plus birds sometimes associated with the higher mountains, will come down into this area and feed here. For example, we have the stellar jay that comes down into our area sometimes about in the early spring. And we also have the scrub jay that lives here all year round. So some species come through here. We're on the flyway for the birds that are flying north. So we'll get the migratory birds coming in here in the springtime, and then many of them disappear too. We're in the Angeles National Forest, so Gold Creek itself is draining down from the mountains that are up behind us, and it drains down the canyon into essentially Hansen Dam, where water is collected to prevent flooding from in the Los Angeles area. It's a stream that runs when we have substantial amount of rainfall. Right now in the summertime, most of it dries up. There are little bits of water in the stream, and then in the winter when we get rains again, it'll be back in a vigorous form.
Here at Gold Creek, we have quite a variety of rock formations. The largest body of rock to our north is the Mendenhall Gneiss. Coming south toward the San Gabriel Fault, we have the Martinez, or what sometimes referred to as the Calico conglomerate. Currently now it's been renamed the Santa Susana Formation. And then the bulk of our property where the creek runs through is called the Saugus Formation. This is a Plio-Pleistocene body of a very pale colored sandstone and conglomerate. It basically represents an ancient river running through this area, and much of the rock that it's draining from is up canyon from us and further up even into Big Tujunga drainage, but we no longer drain that portion because of movement along the San Gabriel Fault. But if we were to go up canyon, Gold Creek Canyon, up to the east and to the north, where we run into is a large body of anorthosite gabbro. It's a very strange rock. In fact, anorthosite is one of the most common rocks on the highlands of the moon, and yet we have a large body of it, one of the largest bodies in North America, sitting right here in the San Gabriel Mountains, and we drain off just a portion of that. And along with rocks from the anorthosite body are also other gabbroic materials, including ilmenite-rich, which is something like an iron oxide, but it's magnetic. Ilmenite-rich cumulate gabbros, and these are raining down out of a molten magma chamber, large crystals that are settling down and accumulating on the bottom. They call them cumulates because they're accumulating, and they build up layers. So there's pyroxenes that are green and silvery ilmenites that are some of the most spectacular finds in our creek down here. The Saugus Formation, which is a large body of rock that covers a lot of this southern margin of the San Gabriel and the western margin of the San Gabriel Mountains, most of it's derived from the weathering anorthosite body, which is largely a feldspar-rich igneous body. What's most important about feldspars is the mineral that provides us with the bulk of the clay, and clay is probably one of the most important minerals for soil formation. So when we go around and we look at the surfaces around here and we look at the soils tell us something about the age of the landscape. The highest surfaces around here have the darkest, the deepest soils, and as we move down toward the stream we see thinner and younger soils showing much less clay and much less color in the soil themselves. Another feature of our Gold Creek Ecological Field Station is our weather station. About 5 years ago, we established a weather station here that contains a pyranometer to measure incoming solar radiation, an anemometer to measure the flow of wind and the direction. It has a shaded thermometer that also measures relative humidity. It has a leaf wetness sensor, so that we can tell the difference of when it's raining. We have a rain gauge that collects water, but our leaf wetness sensor just tells us when there's moisture associated with dew, and pretty much every morning we get dew here. It's pretty amazing. I think that helps a lot of the vegetation around here.
What do you have inside here?
Well, this is the guts of the weather station. This is where all the data is recorded and then transmitted.
What are these different pieces of equipment, the wires?
Well,
what
wires
are they
connect-
recording?
The wires connect all the different instruments like our thermometer, leaf wetness sensor, rain gauge, anemometer. Those all connect to a data logger, which is up in one corner. The data logger then is connected to a satellite transmitter, and then the satellite transmitter sends the signal to the satellite transmitting antenna here.
So anybody who has access to that satellite can read our data here at Gold Creek.
Right, but they really don't have access to that satellite. We have to have a special code. We have to be sponsored by a federal organization. The local Forest Service sponsors us so that we can transmit to the NOAA satellite, that's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
So this is used not just by our students and our faculty, but it is being used by the Forest Service and others.
Absolutely, it's an important source of information. The Forest Service sends out a crew to check on moisture content of the plants around here to test for fire susceptibility, but sometimes they get so busy doing other things they don't have time to check their own weather station, to check whether there's been rain or whatever. So they go online and they check our weather data, because this data that we transmit through the satellite eventually gets onto the internet.
Is this solar panel providing all the electricity for all of this equipment?
Absolutely. It powers a 12-volt battery within our enclosure, and it pretty much powers everything. Although it doesn't need a lot of power to collect data, it needs a lot of power to transmit through the satellite transmitter. This big cone-looking object is our satellite transmitting antenna, and it's aimed at the GOES West satellite, which is off to the southwest.
Behind me just
That
looks
is
like
a rain
some metal.
gauge. It's a rain gauge. It's a big, wide bowl that funnels down to a little seesaw that tips one way or the other, and when it fills up on one side, it dumps, and then it lets the other side start filling up. So this big bowl comes down to a tiny little drizzle, and what it measures is 1/10 of a millimeter of water every time it tips one way or the other. And so it takes 25 millimeters roughly to make an inch. So it's measuring, 1/250th of an inch at a time.
Southern California, we don't have a lot of rain.
Yeah, I gotta account for every drop.
As we look around this area, we can see that it looks very natural, and it is. However, it is very close to the city of Los Angeles. What we don't know is how much human activity and the proximity to the city affects natural areas. In Southern California, we have a lot of natural areas that are in close proximity to city. This is a good area for us to study to find out how human activities and a huge urban area can affect nearby natural ecosystems.
When you bring your students out, what do they respond to the most?
I don't know that it's even a particular species that they respond to, but just being here is really incredible for a lot of the students. I mean, it amazes me how many young people may have grown up in this area and lived here their entire lives and never really spent any time in a natural setting. And experiencing the natural aspect of Southern California. And it really helps them to appreciate what is special about where we live.
What a pleasure to see the beauty of the natural world here at the Gold Creek Ecological Field Station, part of the Los Angeles Community College District. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about the incredible flora and fauna, cultural and natural history, and environmental issues here in the city of Los Angeles in Southern California. On behalf of our nonprofit organization, Educational Communications and ECONEWS, I'm Nancy Perlman, wishing you a natural, unspoiled environment.